Hey y'all. So, Tory Lanez was found guilty on all three counts. All right, so let's give a rundown on why he was found guilty. Okay, so Tory was charged with three counts, three felony counts. One, assault with a firearm. Two, carrying a loaded unregistered gun. And three, discharging of a firearm in a gross or negligent manner. Let's break down the evidence that determined why he was found guilty. Let's start with Kelsey. So we know that Kelsey gave a testimony in court to what happened that night. Her testimony was all over the place. She did ask for immunity. And I've said in a previous video, I don't believe she used the immunity right, but if she's lying just to be lying, or if she's just trying to get away with something, that's really up to the state to see if they would like to prosecute her with perjury. But on the stand, Kelsey did say twice that she did not shoot Megan. She said it to the state when they asked her on the stand, and she said it when Tory Lanez's attorney asked her on the stand as well. So if she's lying, that's perjury. But also, the jury was able to hear her 80-minute interview that she gave to the state in September, in which she was presented. She had no reason to lie. She gave them a testimony saying that Tory did, in fact, shoot Megan. Let's go to Megan's testimony. So we know that Megan took the stand. She said that Tory did shoot her. I know that there's been some issues regarding Megan's testimony because of the fact that she was not forthcoming to the police officers when the incident initially happened. I think that Meg gave a good reason why, and that was really she was trying to protect Tory's career. And she was, she saw herself as a Black woman protecting a Black man. And I think if we look at the dynamics of the Black community, Black women, we do try to protect Black men at all costs. And sometimes that's a detriment to us. And it's a detriment to our health and our safety and our well-being. But I believe that she was truthful when she gave that statement on why she wasn't forthcoming with the officers. In addition to her about her sex life, like I said in the previous video, I understand why she lied to the general public about the relationship between her and Tory. Like I said before, we all got sneaky links that we don't tell nobody. We don't talk about. If we saw them in public, we'd be like, Lord, please don't hug me and please don't make a scene. So I think her testimony regarding that was truthful. Like she said, she was embarrassed. She was embarrassed because now everybody knows she slept with Tory. And whether it's a laughing joke about Tory or not, she didn't want anyone to know. So I believe she was being truthful with that. Also, third-party medical witnesses that took the stand. These individuals, they have a right to tell the truth. They're sworn in, like everybody was sworn in. And like they said, in fact, Megan was shot. She had bullet fragments in her feet, and both of them. So there's no question that she was shot. The question that may not be answered to everyone is who in fact did shoot Megan. But they were truthful in saying that she was shot. So the jury also, when they were deliberating, they were able to look over the text messages that Kelsey sent to the bodyguard saying, help, 911, Tory shot Meg. They were other text messages that was privy to the jury was text messages from Tory to Kelsey saying, I'm so sorry that this happened. Text messages from Kelsey and Megan where Megan is saying, he really, when he was beating me up, should I go to the hospital? I can't believe this happened. And then the jailhouse calls that Tory did, where he called Kelsey and said, I'm so sorry. What are you apologizing for if you didn't do anything wrong? Right. And so those text messages were also entered into evidence, as well as the jailhouse call. Now, like I said in the previous video, in the back of the jury's mind, there was conversations that were being had about money prior to the trial occurring. Both Megan and Kelsey both said money was talked about from Tory, basically saying, I'll pay you a substantial amount of money if you do not testify, or if you do not go to court, or if you do not press charges. So in the back of the mind of the juries, they did hear conversations about money. Then you have the missing witnesses, the bodyguard. So the bodyguard did not testify. The state couldn't find him. But in the back of the jury's mind, we know that some money talk was being talked about. So whether the bodyguard took some money to not come to court because he was subpoenaed to be there, but for whatever reason he didn't show up, and his testimony was very important because we would understand his point of view and exactly what he remembers within the night that it happened, as well as leading up to trial. But unfortunately, we didn't hear the bodyguard. The driver. So the driver to me is very important to this whole entire fiasco, because the driver was actually there, right? But the driver did not testify. Reasons why the driver didn't testify. Well, for one, the state objected to his testimony, saying that they needed at least 2 weeks of a continuance of the trial to determine exactly what he was going to say. Now, that is what the state asked the judge. But Tory's defense could have objected to that request. However, Tory's attorney said that, Tory said that, he doesn't need the driver to take the stand. Now, two things about that. It's either the driver is going to implicate himself in a crime, or he's going to have the same testimony as the neighbor, Mr. Kelly, and he's going to say things that is going to incriminate Tory. And so, whatever reason, only God knows, he didn't take the stand. And then we have the DNA experts. So the state had DNA experts, as well as Tory Lanez's attorneys also had experts. So the experts on both sides did say that the magazine gun had, the evidence was inconclusive. And that the magazine gun is basically what you put into the gun, right? But they couldn't determine, it wasn't enough DNA to determine whether his DNA was on the actual trigger or the actual gun. Tory's lawyer's expert witness talked about that there was possibly a woman DNA on the gun clip. But again, it wasn't enough evidence to really go further. If I was Tory's attorney, I would have had more experts to explain that more in detail. But the criminologist for the state said that, because there wasn't no evidence on the magazine gun, does not mean he didn't shoot. It just means that it could be a numerous of factors of why his DNA is not on the actual gun magazine. But there may have been some DNA on the actual gun, as far as the trigger goes. Then we go into the neighbor, Mr. Kelly. Now, Mr. Kelly, the neighbor's testimony was Tory Lanez's witness. It wasn't even the state. Now, he did say he saw a woman with a gun first, but his testimony went on to say that the little one, Tory, shot 4 to 5 times, and that he was cussing, he was angry, he was upset, he was saying all kind of foul profanity. And once he shot the gun 4 to 5 times, the victim falls on the ground. There's blood on the ground. All 3 of the parties, Kelsey, Tory, and the bodyguard, started to beat the victim, which would be Megan in the situation. And then they put her in the car, and the bodyguard says the police is coming. That was damaging. And this is defense's witness, but that was still damaging because, for one, you say that Tory had a gun. For two, Tory shot the most out of him and Kelsey. And then also, to conclude with that, we also know that there's gun residue on Tory, but also on Kelsey. I think the defense should have did a better job of explaining what bullet um, did the most damage. Was it Kelsey's bullet or was it the bullets that Tory shot off? Was that the contributing factor? But the fact of the matter is that the neighbor still got on the stand and he still said that Megan didn't fall until Tory shot 4 to 5 times, and then they all proceeded to beat her. I think another key factor in there is that from his testimony, we know he had a gun. We know that he shot the gun. And when she fell on the ground, nobody was trying to help her. They were still attacking her. So that was really damaging for Tory's case. Okay. So Tory taking the stand. If Tory was my witness, do not take the stand, because Tory would open himself up to the prosecution being able to open the door to his character. And we know that Tory has had a history of violence. He attacked August Alsina for no reason, lied about it, said he wasn't even in the same place or facility as him. And then we find out there's video. And because of that, he was placed on house arrest because of that. Megan did say in her testimony that the reason why he was offering money is because he was already on probation. So in that particular matter, he was actually doing a diversion, which is a form of probation. So that would have been entered into, the jury would have been able to hear that as well. Plus, he also has another lawsuit where he beat up somebody again. So it's a history and continuance of violence, and you do not want the jury to hear that. Also, the music. He had a music video where he had a horse leg and he was chopping it up. That's not good. And that's not even good. Even if you feel like you're innocent, that's still not good to even portray. And knowing the fact that she was shot. So that is, for me, that was the reasons why the jury found him guilty. What I will also say, if Tory was my client and he has sentencing coming up this month, I would say he needs to write a letter to the judge. He needs to apologize to Megan in the letter. If he still feels like he is innocent, he needs to apologize for even being a participant or even being there that night. And he needs to focus on the letter about the reason why he doesn't need a long sentence, because he has a son and he needs to be able to be there for his son. His mother and father, they'll be able to speak at the hearing. I would apologize for their outbursts where they're talking about Jay-Z this, Jay-Z that. Jay-Z won't shake my hand. They need to apologize to the judge. They need to apologize to the court. If he has anybody else that can vouch for his character, that, he'll be on the road to rehabilitation, that this isn't him, he's talented. And the main factor is his child. I would definitely keep reiterating, like, judge, please think about my kid. As far as media go, I agree with Megan's lawyer that certain media outlets need to be held accountable for this. And the reason why is because there was a lot of media outlets on social media that was reporting half truths and half lies. And as a media, when you hold yourself as a media entity, you have a responsibility to report true, accurate news. And so there were reports prior to trial about whether Megan was shot. There were reports saying she wasn't shot, it was glass. Okay, who put those reports out and why? And, going back to the father saying that Jay-Z had a hand in this, if you look at everything that's happened leading up to this trial, it seems like there was somebody from Tory's camp that was putting out false, inaccurate information that looked better for him than it actually did for Megan. Because this whole time we've heard that Megan is a whore, she's a slut, she's a liar. But in truth and reality, she did get shot by someone that she was sleeping with. So I do agree that media outlets need to be held accountable. If you were in that courtroom as a media entity and you were you were telling half of the truth and not the whole truth, you should be held accountable. Simple as that. Even some of these attorneys that were there that was very biased in their reporting. Like, what? Who was paying you to be biased? Why were you being biased? Also, lastly, I would like to say that the issue that happened between Tory and Megan is not a reflection on Black men and Black women. I love Black men, brothers, sisters, lovers. I love Black men. I know a significant amount of Black women who are married to Black men, who love Black men, whether it's their brothers, their sons, uncles, they love Black men. I know several Black men, all that I know of, that love Black women, that protect Black women. The fact of the matter is, this is an isolated situation in which Tory needs to be held accountable for his actions. No matter if his bullet was the one that penetrated Megan, he still was a willing participant. Whether you're talking about the gun residue, or whether you're taking the neighbor's testimony in its entirety, he still was a participant, and we all have choices. And so the choice that he made has affected him. And so I think that we should keep that in consideration, but this isn't a fight against Black men and Black women. We have a lot of work to do. We have to forgive each other, and we need to heal our relationships so that we can be stronger for our communities. But this issue is between Tory, and these are Tory's actions. So I don't say that like, oh, because Tory is found guilty, all Black men. No, because I know, like I said before, I know a lot of Black men who love Black women, and who protect Black women. So this is something that he needs to face in his consequences based upon his actions of being a willing participant and harming another person. That's pretty much all that I have to say. The losers, not the losers, but the people who are victim to this incident is Tory's son, because now he doesn't have a father. And of course, Megan, because she was shot, she was laughed. Nobody believed her. Everybody said she was lying. Her sexuality was questioned, when really what needed to be questioned is whether someone injured her, in which we know for a fact, based upon the testimony, that she was injured. She did get shot. And kudos to her to keeping her contractual agreements by still performing even after she had to deal with all of this. So love each other, be safe, be kind, and stop the violence.